As this video is released, Nicolas Cage's performance as a serial killer in the horror film Longlegs is kind of a mystery. As far as the marketing goes, they've really made sure to hide his face. But why does this intrigue us? Why do I now really want to watch this?
I'll be waiting.
And maybe the bigger question, why do I feel strongly compelled to watch literally anything Nicolas Cage is in?
You're Nick. Whoa, Cage!
Yes, there are great films he's been a part of, but there have also been some little stinkies, little stinkeroos.
Not the beast! Ah! Open my eyes! Ah!
But this video isn't about that. Listen, I know we all like to make fun of Wicker Man, the bees. Okay, personally, I think him in the bear suit, by the way, punching a woman in the face is funnier than the bees.
Don't be frightened.
But to each his own. Anyway, after taking on a variety of video-on-demand films to pay off real estate debt and becoming a meme 10 times over,
I'm gonna steal the Declaration of Independence.
even getting meta about his memeness in films like The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent and Dream Scenario.
Did you just
Why do we keep coming back? Well, one factor is his own specific acting technique that he's developed, something he's dubbed Nouveau Shamanism. So I want to take a little dive into exactly what that is and how his approach to acting has made him a singular force in Hollywood. But before we turn the page on the Sage Cage rage, I don't know what the fuck, I just want to take a moment to thank our supporters on Patreon, as well as thank everyone for subscribing, commenting, and liking these new videos. Also, I found a book. It's a great book that goes into a wild amount of detail on Nicolas's early roles. It's called How Coppola Became Cage, written by Zach Schoenfeld. So let me know if you want us to make more videos on Cage's career, because I need to talk about it. In fact, I don't even know why I'm asking if you guys want me to do this. I'm going to do this. We're making more Nicolas Cage videos, so be prepared. First, a little background. When Cage was a fairly new actor, he was a big believer in method acting. Now, this term gets thrown around a lot and we associate it with these kind of extreme actions actors take. We've heard the stories. Jim Carrey staying in character as Andy Kaufman on Man on the Moon, or Daniel Day-Lewis not bathing or brushing his teeth and building his own house as John Proctor in The Crucible. It's difficult to say if the method's originator, Konstantin Stanislavski, would have foreseen the ridiculous lengths some actors would go.
Stanislavski, is he part of the resistance? Stop!
All he did was simply propose that feigning emotions wasn't enough, that when you were playing a role, you had to believe that you were that character and actually experience those emotions, and when you can, draw from real-life experiences. Now, all the balls-to-the-wall method acting we're all familiar with nowadays is thanks to famed acting teacher Lee Strasberg, who took the method a step further, suggesting that an actor should inhabit a character so fully that their body would physiologically follow suit. In other words, if you can convince yourself that what you're experiencing is true, then it becomes true.
It's not a lie, if you believe it.
So Nicolas Cage grew up during a time in Hollywood where it was kind of flashy and cool and mysterious to hear about actors who had gone to great lengths to inhabit a character. Around that time, De Niro was gaining 60 pounds for Raging Bull, and he did 12-hour shifts as a cab driver for Taxi Driver, and Al Pacino tried to arrest somebody when he was playing a cop in Serpico. Cage saw these stories, and as a young actor who idolized these actors and performances, he decided to emulate them, but to a more dangerous degree. For example, in the drama Birdy, in which he played a Vietnam veteran dealing with his war buddy who has had a mental breakdown, he kept bandages on his head for like 5 weeks, and he had 2 teeth pulled. Granted, they were baby teeth and they had to come out anyway, and all he did was just time up the dental procedure to occur right before filming. but he felt at that time that it would be a much talked about thing in the press, which it was. Rumors surrounded it, and he just let the public assume that he was so method that he pulled his own adult teeth out. But he was attempting to cash in on this public fascination with method acting. As Zach put it in his book, How Coppola Became Cage, quote, Cage subscribed to a belief system in which authenticity was linked with masochism and self-mutilation. This was juvenile, but Cage's attitude then stemmed from a mix of inexperience, hero worship, and guilt. Quote, I felt a little guilty about playing a guy who was in Vietnam. I mean, never having experienced anything like that, so I guess I became slightly masochistic and took it out on myself to try to put myself through some sort of pain, to feel somewhat of a connection, but it didn't happen. How could you possibly know what Vietnam was like?
We should just hide out and not talk with anybody. And every so often, go crazy and run up the wall.
Sometimes these decisions would make their way into a final film, but other times they were just shot down immediately. According to Cage, on the set of the period drama Racing with the Moon, he intentionally cut himself for the role. Right, I was looking for hyper-realism, that kind of visceral aura, and I took out a pocket knife and basically cut my arm open, and I wanted the blood to flow on film. Apparently, the director said, wrong movie, Nick. Let's cool it. Nicolas attributes these early method decisions as his way of simply trying to stand out from the rest of young actors at the time.
I was trying to get on the map. I started at 15 and I was trying to make a big noise like punk rock and say, look at me, I'm here, you know, and I want you to remember me.
That's kind of an interesting aspect of Cage's acting, is that sometimes the most over-the-top moments that seem to be improvised are actually very calculated and rehearsed.
That contract is somewhere in those files!
Are you alright, Mr. Lowe?
Shut up, bitch.
Take Vampire's Kiss, for example, which Cage has cited multiple times as one of his favorite projects he's ever worked on.
That's my favorite movie I made, by the way.
He played a yuppie slowly losing his mind from loneliness, and his grip on reality is fading, and he basically thinks he's becoming a vampire.
I'm a vampire! 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 I'm a vampire!
There's a moment when he eats a real cockroach. Now that was a calculated decision on his part. It was his idea, and he knew he wanted to get a big reaction.
And I saw it as like a business decision because I've seen this movie in the theater. When people see that cockroach go in my mouth, it's like the bus blowing up in speed. I mean, people really react, and it's like worth $2 million in a special effect, and all I do is eat a bug.
There's also this moment everyone talks about when he's talking to his shrink, complaining about his secretary not being able to file things correctly, and he just recites the alphabet.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G,
Peter.
H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P,
Peter.
Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Huh? That's all you have to do.
Very good. You know your alphabet.
I never misspelled anything. Not once, not one time.
Now this scene has sometimes been incorrectly filed as improvised, when in fact, according to the audio commentary, it was the exact opposite.
Well, it actually is extremely choreographed. I mean, every one of those moves was thought out in my hotel room with my cat.
Nicolas described this film as his laboratory. In the same way an artist might dive deep into the subconscious and experiment with paint on the canvas, Cage was just trying stuff out, sometimes on a scene-by-scene basis. In one scene, he challenged himself to just see how wide he could make his eyes.
I couldn't think of a more horrible job if I wanted to. And you have to do it. You have to, or I'll fire you. Do you understand?
In another scene, when he's crying, he gave himself another challenge. How can I try and say boo-hoo and have it come off as authentic? And just moments prior to this, he shot a blank gun in his mouth, something that caused production and the props department a great deal of stress because Cage kept asking for a more powerful charge from the gun. I mean, there's still wadding in there that can kill you. According to the cinematographer Stefan Chapsky, quote, "There's no production that would allow that to happen today." But that was the extent to which Nick was into it. I mean, however you interpret this movie, good or bad, people are still talking about this. When you search for Nicolas Cage GIFs, whatever I'm not saying it right, I'm sure, but on Facebook Messenger or something, a good amount of the results will be from Vampire's Kiss. And just a side note, I died laughing at some of the things Cage and Robert Bierman, director of Vampire's Kiss, talked about in the DVD commentary.
This is how naive we were when we made this movie.
But you can't duplicate that. I mean,
these people are dancing. I don't know what this is about. I don't know what I was doing. I haven't got a clue.
I love that, though. I don't know where the cuckoo clock head moves came from. Like that.
Yeah.
What is that?
Well, how else do you think you caught it? Did you think, hey, I'm a really great actor. I can catch pigeons?
I don't know what I thought.
I mean, it seemed like both guys, they were just ready to try anything. They were young, and it was chaotic. Then you've got something like Leaving Las Vegas, which is about a drunk who just goes to Las Vegas to drink himself to death, and he has this nice relationship with prostitutes. Very unusual, beautiful movie. Now, for a while, I just kind of assumed that he was drunk the whole time, subscribing to that masochistic part of method acting he was so obsessed with when he was younger. But apparently not. He just studied his favorite drunk performances and had a drinking coach with him on set. The only time he admits getting blackout drunk intentionally was before this pivotal scene in which he flips a casino table. Now, this is kind of interesting because instead of choreographing a moment like this and having it be highly rehearsed, like his ABC monologue in Vampire's Kiss, he went the opposite route. This scene also harkened back to another aspect of method acting, which was using parts of your own life to draw real emotions.
I had developed a sense of backstory for Ben, which is that he had gone through a divorce, was trying to get custody of his son. And in my own life, I was really trying to get that one day out of the week to see my kid at the time. And it was something that I knew was in the body, and I knew it was in the character for Ben. So when I went downstairs and we shot the scene, that's the result. And you see I'm screaming, "I'm his father, I'm his father."
I am his father! Let's go, guys. I am his father!
I meant it. And Ben meant it.
One thing about Cage's acting method is that when he does go over the top, it sometimes works tremendously because of the context and tone of the film. Like, in my opinion, Vampire's Kiss, as weird as it works because his character is literally losing his mind. In another fantastic film, Matchstick Men, his manic energy and outbursts are attributed to his character suffering from OCD.
Ever heard of a line?
Hey, have you ever been dragged to the sidewalk and beat until you pissed blood?
And in Face Off, again, he's just criminally insane, at least in the first 10 minutes or so before he switches faces with Travolta's character. So it gave him plenty of room to just go to extremes and draw from the big mannerisms and facial expressions of his favorite German expressionist actors. Anyway, we could just keep diving into every amazing performance of his, and I will because there's something inside of me that won't let me not do it. But let's bring it back to his acting method, something he calls Nouveau Shamanism. What is it?
I've been told that all actors really hail from the early medicine men and the shamans in the villages pre-Christianity, where they would put on masks and act out, and really they were probably pretty crazy, but they would go in and find answers to questions. Today you're called psychotic if you do that. But it's all semantics.
Here he explains his technique in practice on the set of Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance.
So what I would do is I'd put on Afro-Caribbean paint, like a white and black paint, and black out my eyes so I look like this sort of Afro-Caribbean voodoo icon. And then I would sew in bits of Egyptian artifacts that were thousands of years old into my costume and gather some onyx or tourmaline or something that was meant to have vibrations. And who knows if it works or doesn't, but for me it was an idea of like trying to stimulate my mind or trick my mind into believing I was this character from another dimension. And I would walk on the set and then wouldn't speak to anybody, wouldn't say a word, so I projected this aura of horror, which created fear in my fellow actors, which then inspired me to believe I really was this character.
I mean, it was very important to me that it's clearly a separate entity, and to do that, I thought it would be good to go back to some sort of archaic approach to acting, where they would do theater with masks. You know, because the mask itself is very liberating. Sometimes it helps you commit to a character that hopefully not only stimulates my imagination in terms of the process, but my fellow actors, that they know that there's something else in the room now, and it's not John Blaze.
But then his face just came straight into mine and became otherworldly. You know, he just went somewhere with this powerful energy.
Now, this acting method, it isn't something that, Cage goes around teaching aspiring actors or anything. He's not writing books on it. This is just a label that he's given something that works for him. And honestly, it doesn't sound much different from method acting. In everything he mentioned on how he prepared for the role and behaved on set, it all goes back to the method. Convince yourself that it's true. And whatever you have to do that, you do it. So he dressed a certain way, had little trinkets and tchotchkes in his pocket, and he evoked a certain demeanor on set. People would recoil in horror, and like a feedback loop, it just made him feel more in tune to the character. Which brings us back to Longlegs, which is there's a promotional clip going around where actress Micah Monroe sees Cage as the serial killer character for the first time on set. Apparently, it was so disturbing that her heart rate got up to 178 beats per minute. So the question is, what was she afraid of? Was it his appearance in the cosmetics and makeup? Or was it the fact that she was face-to-face with an actor known for pushing the boundaries, and I'm in a room with him now, what the hell is he gonna do? Maybe all of the above. I'll be honest, if I'm in a scene with Nicolas Cage as an actor, I'm already tinkling my pants a little bit. So, in the end, hopefully I was able to shed some light on this unique acting method. But what I do know for sure is why we love watching Nicolas Cage. And you probably do too. I mean, it's common sense. He makes wild decisions as an actor, and we just want to see what he's going to do. Sometimes he flirts with the absurd. Other times, he drags absurd to a dimly lit alley somewhere and just does awful things to it. And absurd is a mess by the time he's done with it. Sometimes it works, and other times, well, who cares? He tries, and more importantly, he cares. He's admitted to doing some subpar movies in order to pay back his tax debt, but he makes sure to reiterate that no matter what, he gave it his all. That's compelling and inspiring from an acting perspective, but honestly, you could apply this to your own life. I mean, what are we doing here? What are we doing on this planet if we're not going to go all out? Be like Cage. Don't hold back. Become a vampire.